Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching us from. It's good to have you back on the HR Digest brought to you by Sedat Consult. I'm just stepping in for your host, Patience, who will join us very soon. And we are privileged to once again have one of the best brains in the space of HR. And he so loves sharing with us that we are always calling on him. Like Oliver Twist, you always ask for more. Um, Today's topic is very, very crucial, especially in this age and time where we are talking about diversity, we are talking about inclusion and how it pertains to Ghana. How are we doing in terms of diversity and inclusion at the workplace? How are we doing? And is it different from what is happening in the US where Jeff is based? And how can we also make it work at our various workplaces in Ghana? And so, if you have joined us for the first time, welcome and thank you for joining us. Kafi, you were seated even before we went live, and this is the spirit we are looking for. Thank you so much. It's good to have you here. And so your host is back. I will just hand the baton to her, and then we'll continue from there. But we are glad that you could join us. And today, like I said, we have one of the best brains when it comes to HR, and particularly to this topic of diversity and inclusion. He's an expert. And so we are sure that we'll get the insights and the nuggets that we need to make the workplace a better place for all of us. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, welcome to today's episode of HR Digest. Sorry, I had some few internet issues, but hey, I'm back to your screens. And I want to say a very big thank you to all of you for joining today's episode. Sedat HR Digest is a platform where we discuss people on organizational issues and learn ways that helps us to build our organizations so that we will be able to support top management and in their decision and also support the people we work with. And this show is brought to us by Sedat Consult. You can contact Sedat Consult on 0244629245, 0244629245 for all your people, hiring, compensation, HR audit, talk about everything HR. Sedat Consult is there to help you out. And so please get in touch with Sedat Consult and you will be sorted. And also supported by Quick Fix Creative. You can contact quick fix creatives on 055 2090 90057. Let me take it again. 055 2090 for all your designing and printing needs. Today's episode, we would be discussing how to let me take the how off. We'll be discussing diversity and inclusion at the workplace. And of course, our guest is an expert. He's not a new face to us. He's been with us since the past 3 weeks. He's an expert in the subject we'll be discussing today. Jeffrey Boham as our guest for today. And I mean, we've introduced him over and over, and you can attest to his expertise and I mean, how sometimes he responds to diversity and inclusion questions, you can tell. And so today we'll be having a deeper conversation on that subject with him. But before I bring Jeff on, if you have any comment, any question, please drop it in the comment box. We'll read it out for our guests to respond to you. And let us know where you are watching us from so we can acknowledge you. I see Kafri. Kafri says seated and waiting. Thank you, Kafri, for tuning in. Josephine, thank you. Michael says, I'm watching. Michael, thank you. He's been watching us Sunday after Sunday. And so Jeff is a global learning and development, business project management, and general human resource management based in the US of A. He has a wide experience in the HR practice and an expert to the subject diversity and inclusion. And so Jeff Boham is our guest today. Thank you, Jeff. You're welcome to Sadat's HR Digest.
I'm actually, like I told you earlier, I'm actually driving. But I stopped. So I'm not doing anything crazy. We can answer the questions. And then right after that, we'll continue our journey.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much for helping us out, helping us to learn, helping us to unlearn, and helping us to relearn. Today, we are looking at diversity and inclusion at the workplace, and I want to go straight to our discussion. All right, so first of all, I would like you to help us understand what diversity and inclusion is and why is it important to have it at the workplace?
Well, let me start by saying diversity is a fact. You know, most of the time when we get to our part of the world, when, people think that diversity is just racial diversity where you're talking white people, black people, Indians, and things like that. But diversity is a fact. And by saying diversity is a fact, what I mean is that no two human beings are the same. Okay? Mm-hmm. So realistically, in the workplace, what diversity really means is that in the workplace, there are going to be people who have a lot of differences. Okay, people are going to be different in their cultural backgrounds. People are going to be different in their upbringing. People are going, even siblings. I mean, I'm a twin, but my twin brother and I are not the same people. So, you have like same parents raise kids the same way, but some become rich, some become poor. Why? So people think differently. People act differently. There's diversity of thought. Diversity falls in so many different categories. So one big misconception is that, when you get to like African countries and places where people are extremely homogeneous, people think that they are very much together and there's no diversity, there's no uniqueness or differences between them. I think it's important for us to realize that as a fact, and that is what diversity is about, understanding that human beings are unique and that in the workplace, everybody comes with a different personality. So inclusion or inclusivity means that you want to be able to harness the potential, the God-given talent of every person. You don't want to say, I'm the CEO, so what I say goes. You'll be surprised that the best and most creative thoughts would come from the janitor. So the idea behind inclusion is to ensure that you get everybody's views brought in before you make a final decision. That's the rationale behind diversity and inclusion. And it's as relevant in Ghana as it is anywhere in the world.
Wow, thank you very much, Jeff. Diversity is a fact. We are diverse in so many ways. And like Jeff said, no, even twins are diverse. And he gave himself as an example. All right. So Jeff, talking about um this, I'm sure you have touched on it, but in Ghana, we believe in, I mean, the fact that we speak the same language and probably come from the same region. You are dark, I am dark. Our noses are similar and all that, and we do share similar beliefs. Though some people have their own, but there are some common beliefs that we share together. Do you think that diversity and inclusion is necessary in a country like Ghana? Though we are all diverse, but I mean, we feel we are alike. We feel we share the same belief. I mean, why should we embrace that?
Yeah, so Patience, look at it this way. Give the same $20 bill or the same 20 Ghana cedi bill, okay, to siblings, 5 siblings. They're gonna go buy different things. They're gonna go buy different foods. Some are gonna eat gobe, some are gonna eat wache. So people are we see that is the biggest misconception, and it's one of the things that holds us back as a country. We think that because we look the same, we think that because we have the same color, we think that because we all speak Tree, that we are all together. Let me tell you something. One day on Facebook, okay, somebody posted something and they were talking in Tree. And one of my ever friends came and said, "You Ghanaians are so unfair." He went to a disco with me. He said, "You Ghanaians are so unfair. I thank God that I live in America." Guess what? Because he said, "You assume that every Ewe should understand Tree, but that is so not right." So that is exactly what I'm trying to highlight. What it takes is that it's very important that we pay attention, okay, to the fact that some people may be different. Some people may be deficient in certain areas. And so it's important that we, even as a country, even though we look alike, that we create opportunities for everyone to be heard and everyone to be tolerated and everyone to be respected, basically. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Thank you very much. Now we want to look at what steps can we take to create a more diverse and inclusive work environment as HR professionals.
Very good question. Like I said earlier, diversity is a fact. So, we are, whether we like it or not, diversity is in the office. So we don't even have to create the diversity. But in terms, we have to honor the diversity and we have to kind of try to be as inclusive as possible. So things we can do, for example, is we have to understand key processes. Whenever we're taking decisions, we want to take decisions that find ways and means to get everyone's opinion brought in. For example, if you're holding meetings, okay, I was a manager at some point. I set myself and my team up in such a way that when I'm holding meetings on day one, the 2 other team members would, day 3, so they can all bring their personality to bear on the team. And we just have to be very intentional about what we do to make sure everyone. So, for example, if you're having focus group meetings, okay, instead of letting people just raise their hands and speak, you can give one person, each person, a sticky note and say, write your opinion so that everybody's opinion is heard. So that not only the people who like to speak up and the people who like to raise their hands, and not only the people who are bold enough to speak in public will be heard, but at least you want to create an opportunity for everybody in the group to be heard. Okay, you can't always depend on individual consensus to be made, but you can break people into groups. You can create representations. For example, if you're running a company where you have like 60% Ashantis, 20% Ewes, 10% Dagbanis and things like that. You can create maybe language groups and create like a diversity council. And then maybe within the diversity council, you have one Ashanti representative, one Ga representative, one an Ewe representative, one, other, every language. So that in that council, every group's voice is heard. So it depends on what we are trying to do, but we have to create that mindset where we deliberately and intentionally kind of take actions. And some people are disabled. There are some people who, may need a few more accommodations to be able to do the same work that maybe people who are not disabled get to do. It's important that we say, hey, what about the people in wheelchairs? What about the people who have this disease? Can we hear from you? Deliberately reach out to every population, and you'll be surprised at how much innovation and how much creativity and how much quality you're going to get just by bringing everyone in. I hope that answers your question too.
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you, Adelaide, for joining. Adelaide says that is this session recorded? The speaker is awesome. Thank you. We always bring you the best on HR Digest. All right. So Adelaide, after the show, we do post the link and you can listen to the whole session again. And so just to give a summary of what Jeff has said. Make sure that you create opportunity for everybody to be heard, and then ensure that you create representatives, especially when you are dealing with groups, so that you have each person represented or each population being represented. And then you need to be deliberate about this. You need to be deliberate about it. Thank you very much, Jeff. We want to, so as an HR professional or practitioner, and I want to, you will always advise that you ensure you have policy backing most of the things you do or your practices as an HR person. If I want to consider, or if the HR or whoever the HR is or management wants to consider a policy for diversity and inclusion, what should be the consideration? What are some of the things they need to consider in drafting a diversity and inclusion policy?
I would say that it's something that must be made clear, on the organization's website. You let people know, you let the world know that you are an inclusive environment, number one. You kind of want to weave that into your hiring processes. You want people to understand that you only bring on people who really respect the rights of everybody, including minorities. Okay, you want to create a position like a director of diversity and inclusion, so that awareness is created throughout the organization, where people can fully understand and say, look, this is Ghana, but we have a director of diversity and inclusion in addition to a director of HR. So the idea here is that you want to ensure that it's visible throughout everything that you do. And like I said, different organizations might have different approaches to doing it. You want to have a group of people that just spend time kind of finding ways and means to inculcate practices that really demonstrate that the company values and respects the rights. You have to weave it into the culture. You want to create that impression that the company values the rights and opinions of everybody. And even, believe it or not, that alone is something that is going to get people to join the organization. For example, my friend who's the Ewa guy, okay, when that person realizes that a company in Ghana is paying attention to the fact that not everybody speaks Twi in Ghana, okay, such a person, and he's such a talented person, okay, he's a very, very smart accountant, that person will join a company like that. So the idea is to just create policies, create practices, involve it in your general culture, and kind of establish positions. There should be a vice president of diversity. There should be and another thing that organizations can also do is they want to tie it to bonuses. They want to tie diversity practices to promotions and things like that. I've seen certain organizations where you cannot become a director if you have a diversity and a DI score of a certain number. So, for example, during 360 feedback sessions, okay, people have to rate you how inclusive you are as a leader. So you can be the best performing leader, but if you have a lower inclusion score, guess what? You can never be a director. You make it clear in your leadership trainings. You make it clear that if you score less than 30% in your inclusivity index, you will never be a leader in this company. So when you start posting that, touting that, letting people know, then people will start realizing that, look, to be successful in XYZ company, you have to respect everyone, including minorities.
Wow. To be successful, you have to respect everyone within the minority and make sure that you weave the inclusion in everything you do. Let people feel like, especially the minority group, feel like they belong. Right. So Jeff, I have another follow-up question on this. So in this case, what would be the difference between diversity and inclusion and belongingness? So let me say inclusion and belongingness. What would be the relationship between these two?
Okay. So we're getting deeper. We're peeling different layers of the onion, right?
Yeah.
So let me start by clarifying something. Including is not the same as inclusion. Let me give an example. There are times where you find, especially you see that in politics a lot. You get some people that are brought into meetings. Okay, so we can say they were included in the meeting.
Absolutely.
So being present doesn't mean inclusion. But inclusion means making sure that their opinions are heard and respected. So there's a difference between the two. Now, one step further beyond inclusion, I would call is belonging, where the person who was brought in feels as though everybody loves them and everybody sees them. Let me tell you, and I'll tell you something. I was born in Ghana. Okay. I've come to the United States of America. I've become a naturalized citizen. When people talk to me, they don't talk to me like a Ghanaian anymore. They talk to me like an American. So guess what? I feel like I belong here. When I travel to Ghana and I come back to the United States, you know what they tell me at the airport? They say, welcome home. You get what I mean? So it's the kind of language, the kind of things that we say, those are the things that let people know that they belong. So I see belongingness as one step beyond just being added. When a person feels like they belong to, like when I go to Ghana, I also feel like, even though technically I'm not a Ghanaian, when I go to Ghana, I feel like I belong to Ghana because everybody treats me well. I talk to my family, I speak Twi. So that's the extent. So when we talk about belongingness, what we're trying to say is just making everyone feel very comfortable. You don't want people to be in a group and just feel like they are the talking there. Like I'm the only black person here. No, I want people to listen to my opinion. I want to feel like I don't see any difference when I'm in the midst of people. That's the difference between the two.
Right. Thank you very much, Jeff. Being present doesn't mean inclusion. We want to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will continue with a discussion on diversity and inclusion at the workplace. Welcome back. We are discussing diversity and inclusion at the workplace. Our guest is Jeff Boham, and Jeff has been taking us through, and in fact, he's giving us a lot of insights about the topic, diversity and inclusion. If you are watching us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, thank you so much for joining in. If you have any question, please drop it in the comment section. If you have any contribution, you can also drop it there. We'll read it out for our guest. All right. So Nelly says hi. Hi, Nelly. Zachary says, good one, Jeff. I'm enjoying it. Thank you. I'm equally enjoying it here. Susu says, very impactful, Jeff. Thank you very much, Susu. So we want to continue with our discussion. And I want to ask Jeff, what resources or are there resources that can be made available we can use to educate our colleagues, our team members, and everybody around us about the importance of diversity? Are there any resources that we can use?
Well, I would say there are resources all around us. I would start with looking for educated people about it. Number one, you want to train, because you see, when you build your leaders to develop that open and inclusive mindset, okay, it cascades throughout the organization. And when you start holding people accountable to it, so in terms of resources, even the practice of enforcing it is a resource. But the starting point is programs like this, education, getting HR folks. I mean, obviously, not everybody here is an HR person, but getting HR folks to fully understand what some of these things mean. There's a very well-known resource. It's called Culture and Organizations. It's a book by Greg Hofstadter. It's called Culture and Organizations, Software of the Mind. Now, the thinking here is that when you program people's minds to see clearly what diversity is and to create the awareness, okay, when you have informed and educated people about the subject of diversity, those people start impacting other people. So in terms of resources, I can tell you, the Sham group in Ghana, senior Kojo Emisa is my senior. He's very, and I know our own Patricia as well, the head of Standard Consult. These are folks who really understand diversity. I think it's important that we bring that practice. It's important that we bring these conversations to our country. We let people know that, sometimes people feel like certain challenges and certain problems are Obroni problems. They are things that are faced outside. But these are things that are holding us back in our country. And it's very important. Let me give you an example. I worked in Parliament a long time ago. And I remember those days, people use certain terminology. And when I was in Ghana, I thought it was right. But when I came here, I was like, oh, these things were wrong. Okay. Even ministers, they would call some people the Fanti Confederation. They'll call people the Genukope, those days of Jerry Rawlings, the Genukope Mafia. You don't mess with those people. Why? Simply because people speak a certain language. Simply because people agree on certain issues doesn't necessarily make them any more unique than other people. So just the way you respect the Fanti Caucus, you want to respect the Genukope Mafia. Not because they are related to Rawlings. So the thinking here is we have to create awareness, and it starts with those of us in HR. It's important that we educate our CEOs. It's important that we educate the rest of the organization to really digest and understand some of these things so that they can also keep spreading it. I would say I've been here in this country for a while, and there are certain organizations that do diversity trainings every 2 weeks or every month. Because if you don't create that culture, you see, once you create a culture and you run those trainings like every 2 weeks or every month, and they have like brown bag sessions, lunches, you have a diversity team, you have a diversity council, you have people, you want to propagate the thinking, the gospel of diversity across the organization. So it's not just something that is read in one book. It's something that the people who have had the training, the people who have read the books should be allowed to speak. When we hold conferences, we want to hold sessions that are dedicated to diversity and inclusion. And I would love to hear that happening in Ghana. Okay, sometimes we hear issues of compensation, we hear issues of learning and development. How often do we hear the subject of diversity coming? Because we think it's not important, but it's something that is holding us back. Elitism, for example, elitism is a diversity issue. Age discrimination is a diversity issue. These are a whole lot of things. Some people feel like they went to a disadvantaged college, they went to Kwabutwe, they went to Wesley Girls, so they are better than people who went to Fanchinico Secondary School. That is not true. Because when you have people at the table, you don't have the school at the table. You have an individual who studied by himself or herself. I had a roommate back at the University of Ghana, and in fact, this person was my mate at Adesada College. He went to Georgia Secondary School, but he was one of the best students. So, what does having gone to Adisco mean? What does having gone to Kwabutwe mean? It comes down to the individual and what the individual brings. And it's important for HR to seek out people's creative abilities and bring all those to the table. And that is when we become inclusive as an HR population.
Interesting. At a point, I didn't want you to stop talking. I'm enjoying the discussion. I'm enjoying the discussion. Let's make sure that we bring everybody on board. Where you went to school doesn't matter. It's about what you are bringing to the table. Age doesn't matter. It's about what you are bringing on the table. So let's bring everybody on board. Let's harness the potential of everybody so we can build a solid organization. The book Jeff mentioned has been posted in the comment section. Please, you can write it down, research, or get the book, the soft copy, and read. It will help you. I mean, just this few statements from the book, I feel like I should go look for it now. Pause the discussion and go and look for it. But I'll certainly get it to read it. All right. So Martin says he's watching us from Temale. Thank you, Martin. Josephine Aqua says that great answers. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Josephine. Mondi says hello, Mondi. Martin's okay, I've mentioned Martin. Hey, this is your name. Please forgive me. Jeff says we shouldn't go say where we went to school. I've mentioned my school here, but thank you so much for joining in. Jeff, we want to look at having discussed and mentioned to us the importance of weaving diversity and inclusion in everything we do at the workplace. As HR practitioners, how can we measure the effectiveness of our diversity and inclusion initiatives?
Well, very good question. It's a soft skill. So it really gets evaluated according to how people perceive your inclusivity. For example, if you're a leader, how do you get measured by your leadership actions? You get measured when people talk about you, when people rate you as a good leader, when people rate you as somebody who cares about their needs. So you want to create a D&I index. For example, let's say in our general reviews, in our 360-degree feedback, when we are getting our team to evaluate us, you want to post questions where we say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how inclusive do you think your leader is? Or how sensitive is your leader, to your needs? How welcoming is your team? There was a period in time when my superior at work asked me to train the other managers, to become more inclusive. You know why? Because the people on my team were telling other people that, look, it's good to be on this guy's team. I'm not trying to kind of brag or anything of that sort. These are things that really happened. And it was simply because I let one person on my team own the leadership of the team every week. So we had weekly meetings, and I wasn't always, even though I was a general, leader, I never really said I'm going to chair every meeting. Week one, person A chairs the meeting. Week two, person B chairs the meeting, and they send out an agenda, maybe a week ahead of time, and they tell us this is how I'm going to run my meeting. Okay. When I was a manager, there was another thing that I did. My one-on-one sessions were not owned by me. There were sessions that people would come to my office, but guess what? It was their meeting. It was the time when I asked them, what can I do to make sure I'm serving you best as your leader?
Wow.
And when people feel empowered, when people feel respected, that is when the truth about how people feel will come to the table. And believe it or not, that truth is going to make a difference. And that company is going to be more creative. That company is going to be more outstanding in the marketplace. And these are things that impact the bottom line as well. You see, there are global realities that we want to all understand. There are things, for example, that we don't know that are going to happen. For example, I would say sometime around 2050 and going forward, do you know the largest English-speaking country in the world? What the largest English-speaking country in the world is going to be? China, believe it or not. The largest Spanish-speaking country in the world is going to be the United States. Okay, these are you see, change is the only reality. These are dynamics that are evolving over time. I'll say 1 out of every 2 Chinese people is actively and seriously studying English now, because they feel like that is what is going to expand their global competitiveness. They are doing business all over the world. So it's diverse. The future is already here. The future is already here. So we have to embrace a mindset, an open mindset, where we fully understand some of these issues. And going back to the question, in terms of how to really measure it, I think it comes down to creating the metrics that align with your objectives within the organization. So, for example, if you want more, let's say, I'm going to use an example. If you want more airways, okay, to be brought into your organization, as part of your diversity and inclusion score for measuring leaders, you can say how many airways or how many people, as an airway, how do you feel you are being brought into this team? How many airways are feeling a sense of belongingness in this group and things like that. So these are things that we really have to create. We have to get a group of people working together. I can't say there's one standard that fits in all organizations. It's important that you have a diversity council that continuously meets and says, this is what we can do as a team to create tolerance within the organization.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Diversity is a soft skill, and so it's very important that you include it in your performance reviews. Like Jeff said, create a DNI index so people can give you feedback, and that is one of the ways that you can measure how effective you are being as far as that is concerned. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm enjoying the discussion. Our time is also going, but we want to take this question, and probably that will be my last question for Jeff, and we would take his final words and we are off. If you have any question, please drop it in the comment box. We'll read it out for Jeff to respond to you. Michael says that I like the part he said, allow people with books knowledge to speak. Allow people with books and knowledge to speak. It is not about where I come from. It's not about the language I speak. Do I have the knowledge? Can I bring something to the table? Even if I can't find a way to bring me up to speed so I can also contribute my quota. All right. So, Jeff, we want to take this question. What strategies can we use? I'm sure you've touched about some of them, but maybe there could be more you want to share with us. What strategies can we use to promote diversity and inclusion in leadership position?
Well, the number one thing I would say is don't let anybody get on your leadership team. Okay, if that person doesn't achieve an inclusivity score of, let's say, more than 80%. So people should know that this leader is fair. People should know that this leader cares. People should know that this leader respects diversity. People should know that the leader really, in addition to the leader doesn't really favor certain people, that the leader respects all people and things like that. I think that when people get promoted because they did something, they want to continue living that life. Just you want as many role models as possible in your leadership team, but you want those people to be people who have been vetted. The other thing is you want to ensure that you only bring people into your organization if and only if they demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that they are diverse and they're inclusive in their thinking. So, for example, you can put that in the type of questions you ask. Tell me about the time when you did XYZ. If you found yourself in situations like that, how would you respond? When you find out that people are close-minded, you give them feedback and tell them, if you were open-minded, we would have brought you in. And if the company is an employer of choice, okay, I know most people like to work for the big companies. Okay, the big companies in Ghana, the AGCs, the Bank of Ghana's and all these. If Bank of Ghana has a program that says, if you are not open-minded and inclusive, you can never work for Bank of Ghana, guess what's going to happen? People are going to start preparing themselves to get in those positions. And people will start putting these things on their resume, and they'll say, when I was in the previous company, I garnered an inclusivity score of XYZ. Okay, so these are things that I think we have to deliberately craft and plug into our leadership practices and our leadership rewards. Excuse me, to ensure that we're only bringing the right people into our leadership roles.
All right, thank you very much, Jeff. Jerome says, how can diversity and inclusion bring business growth and sustainability?
Diverse in so many ways. That's a very good question. Can you read the question again? I want to hear the question well.
How can diversity and inclusion bring business growth and sustainability?
Number one, you are going to be more creative. It's going to bring more ingenuity. Because think about a company that has only 5 leaders. If only those leaders get at the table to decide what the company needs to do, they only have 5 possibilities of competing in the marketplace.
Absolutely.
What if the company decides to bring in the thoughts and views of every single person, including the person who sweeps? Okay, when you get every person's thought in it, you get a much richer collection of thoughts. So the company becomes more creative. The company, because the ingenuity grows within the company, and there's also something turnover reduces. People stay longer within the organization. So people who are more experienced and more skilled stay with the organization. So there's so many things. There's something called employee engagement. I'm sure as HR folks we know that thing. Okay, do you know that when organizations show lower engagement, okay, the general impact to the bottom line is lower than organizations where people are highly engaged? And by bringing diversity and inclusion solidly into an organization, guess what's going to happen? When people start falling in love with the company, when people start respecting the company that they work for, when people start really working when nobody's watching, when people love a company, guess what happens? They wake up at night, and even at home they start working when nobody's monitoring them. When people don't care about your organization because they feel like you are not inclusive, they feel like even when they put in all their hard work, it's only the executives that are going to sit somewhere and party with the money. Guess what? They come to work and they don't work. So how it directly impacts the bottom line is so many ways. For example, when people work more, when people get brought in, when you bring more ideas in, you get a richer perspective, you get richer decisions made. You have B2B, like you have certain businesses. that will say we will only buy from this company because they respect minorities. Okay, I know what I know. A lot of Ghanaians have been dealing with this issue where the United States, for example, says they are only going to give aid to countries that respect certain minorities. If you don't respect certain minorities, they don't want to give you their money. And that is why some countries will do business. You have a country like Saudi Arabia that's pumping money into hospitals here in the US simply because of what these people do. So the reality on the ground is diversity it's been proven that it does have an effect on the bottom line when we make the right decisions and when we bring the right people in. I hope that question is answered.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Jerome, please come back. Let us know if you're okay with the answer Jeff has given. And I guess your response will certainly be yes, because I mean, all the salient points had been touched on. Josephine says that please, cross-cultural issues. Oh, okay. So I guess she wants to ask, is cross-cultural issues same as diversity issues in an organization?
Absolutely. You know, let's define culture. Culture is the way of life of a group of people. So even in Ghana, I would say Adisco culture is different from Kwawutre culture. Stampede culture is different from Akraka culture. Kotoko culture is different from House of Folk culture. So even within a homogeneous group, you have different subcultures. Now, when we talk about cross-cultural issues, what we mean is that it all comes down to tolerance and feedback, creating an open environment where people can truly, be themselves, be their honest selves, and people can truly share whoever they are. When we talk about cross-cultural issues, think about it. We have a lot of Chinese in Ghana. We have a lot of multinational companies in Ghana. They are coming from a different culture. They are coming from a different environment. The way we see certain things, they don't see these things a certain way. It all comes down to educating each other. So when you create a diverse and open environment where people are ready to say, this is why we do it this way. That is why we do it that way. Once you create that understanding, those cultures are going to cross and a whole new culture is going to emerge. And that is how you build and fix a culture that is open and embracing of different opinions.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Josephine, please come back. Let us know if you're okay with the answer. Jerome says, very well, and I like the creative and respecting minorities' views. Thank you, Jerome. Thank you so much, Jeff. Josephine, let's hear from you if you are fine, and Jeff's response answers you very well, or you have follow-up question for Jeff as well.
Okay.
If you just join in discussing diversity and inclusion at the workplaces of Sadat HR Digest, we have been talking to our regular host, a regular resource person, Jeff Boham. Thank you so much, Jeff. It's been interesting. I mean, it has always been interesting and insightful with you. We want to bring today's discussion to an end, but before we sign off, I want to take Jeff's final words and we can say bye-bye for today.
Thank you very much, Madam Patience. And I think this is a very, very important session. I'm sure that a lot of people, when they saw this, they were like, oh, come on now. Why are we talking about diversity when we're in Ghana? But, I'm a Ghanaian too. The truth of the matter is diversity is as important in Ghana as it is anywhere in the world. Diversity is even important in individual homes in Ghana. When parents have a lot of kids, when parents have 3-4 kids, they have to be embracing and tolerant of people's opinions. They have to allow people to speak. And when it comes to the workplace, we HR folks are the ones who should be facilitating these things. Okay, we don't want to wait for the CEO to be coming to us and telling us this is what you have to do. We want to create that environment. We want to inculcate it. We want to inculcate it in our hiring practices, in our training programs, in our business environment, and ultimately it's going to have an impact. And you'll be surprised. Take this word from me. If you incorporate diversity and inclusivity into your HR and your general organizational practices, you are going to earn more money, you are going to earn more respect, more folks are going to work for your organization than your competition. You're going to get so much benefit from it. And thank you very much for inviting me to actually share with you what I know about some of these things today.
Thank you very much, Jeff. It's I mean, like I said, it has always been good having you here. Josephine says, great response. I okay, so I think she meant to write. I am writing my thesis on cross. Oh, okay. I guess you have some good points to add to your research work. Um, Jerome says, very insightful and educative session. Thank you, Jerome. Josephine says, thank you, Sedat Consult. Thank you. Josephine said, Madam Pat and Mr. Jeffrey Boham, great to have you all. Great to have you too, Josephine. Adley says, my organization practices diversity and inclusivity. Thank you so much. That's a good one there. And I guess you are reaping the results of bringing everybody on board. Jerome says, very sure HR people should take interest in gender diversity and inclusion. We're going to do exactly that for you, Jerome. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on board. It's been HR Digest for today's episode. We have been discussing diversity and inclusion at the workplace. And like I said, our resource person is Jeff Boham. Jeff has, taken us through all the things that the most salient things that we need to build a good diversity and inclusion environment at our workplace. It's already happening. Let's enhance it. Let's be intentional about it. Let's bring everybody on board. And I believe that it would go a long way to help us. Adley says that's what the title of the book he recommended. I guess our IT team would repost it, so you can write it. The IT team will repost it. It was posted, and I'm sure I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm sure our IT team will post it.
It's culture and organizations software of the mind. It was written by a gentleman called Greg Holstetter. I think he worked for IBM, and he's a Dutch person.
Right. So Adley, the title of the book is being projected on the screen. Please, you can write it now. Thank you so much. Thank you, our viewers on LinkedIn. Thank you, our viewers on Facebook. Thank you, our viewers on YouTube. We really appreciate you coming Sunday after Sunday to come and learn, relearn, and then it's a great sacrifice, and I believe it's helping you. Please share the link, comment, like, let others get to know that there's something good happening on Sedat HR Digest. Let them come and also add their views and their opinions and share their questions with us, and we'll help them to respond. We'll help to respond to their questions accordingly. And we will be meeting next week for another interesting episode. You don't want to miss that. I'm already excited about next week's topic already. So please share, talk to your friends, and let them know that we are doing something great here. There's much going on here, and so they should be here to also learn. And thank you for all viewers that participated, commented, and then asked questions. We are very grateful, and we want to say we love you. See you next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry.